Yo, what is up? What is up, YouTube boxing family? It's K right here. I'm back with another great video for you guys today. I'm gonna be talking about Terence Bud Crawford and the reason why Crawford avoided Spence. Um, like basically why I believe Crawford doesn't want any Errol Spence smoke, and he decided to go the route of ducking Spence for David Avanesian, or David Amnesia Avanesian. So yeah, let's get right into this video, and we will get the show right up on the road. But anyways, salute to the mighty LDVC, and we are cooking. So yeah, let's get right into it, man. What's my whole thoughts on this? What is Crawford doing? I think the issue with Crawford is fear. I don't think Crawford is a man of his own word, and I think Crawford is a coward. Why I believe that is a different story. Simply due to the fact that when you're a man, you have two things that you could do. One, be a man of your word and move on with your life, or two, be a coward and not be a man of your word of who you are. I'm just like the believer of, eye for an eye. Well, I'm not really like an eye for an eye guy, but I am word is bond. I think with men, we tend to have a very strong, view of how we view life, but boxing is very metaphoric to everyday life because tomorrow is not promised in the sport, and therefore tomorrow is not promised when you go to bed and end up waking up dead. So that's why every day could be very well your last day, and you should make every day count. With Terence Crawford's recent move against Errol Spence and this contractual negotiations, I don't believe Crawford wants this fight. I believe Crawford is very afraid of Errol Spence. I think he understands that Errol Spence is a threat to him. If he wasn't a threat, I think Crawford, like any other champion that we've seen in the sport of boxing, would go after the big fish or go after the big killers or the demon kings in a division. Um, that's just my way of seeing it. If I'm a fighter myself, I want to go after people that think that they're better than me. And I think it's best that Crawford did that instead of taking this route with David Avanesian. Now, in regards to this whole collusion that he did with Black Prime TV, I think this is all part of him ducking Errol Spence. And here's why. So, when Blue Blood talked about this whole situation of Crawford, you know, having this fight with Spence, and he was hyping this fight up to say like, oh, this fight could happen next. This fight could happen in November. Fight could happen in January. Or this fight could happen in February. Why is it that Blue Blood was making up ridiculous lies in which I got no disrespect to Blue Blood. Like I respect Blue Blood. Well, I've lost like a lot of respect for him now, but I've respected him leading up to this point with Crawford because now it makes me understand that the game of boxing is very corrupt, and a lot of people end up being very sadistic over certain fighters that they want to climb. Um, I think the issue being is that people don't want to be honest when it comes to the table of having the best fight and the best. You may think I'm being a little bit biased on that, but it's like for me at least, I want to see the best fights made in boxing. I think the best fights should and should be mandatory for everybody that's in boxing. In a perfect world without sanction bodies. Obviously, with sanction bodies, you could use belts to basically avoid and duck fighters to get away from the best competition. And I don't like that. Like I think boxing deserves better people in the sport, and I think that's the biggest problem. A lot of people don't want to, um, you know, be honest with themselves, and they don't want to be like, I guess, they don't want to come to the table. They like to be those type of people where they don't want to be true to themselves as a person, and they like to use certain branding of protecting, like they want to use certain wording to protect the fighter for people to be how should I say, for people to be dormant for their own fighter. And I mean, if people like to act like that, like there's nothing wrong with that. It like if people are just scared of their fighter losing, then that's perfectly fine. Like I mean, you could act like that, but at the end of the day, it's like boxing is still boxing. Like people still have lives to go back to when when it's all said and done. And I think that's the biggest problem in the sport. Whenever I talk anything about a certain fighter, like I say what I say about a fighter, but that's how I believe. Like, if I want to get my channel up to 1 million subscribers, like I'm gonna say things that I like to say that will get me views. But then again, when I'm talking boxing, I speak the truth. Like I could easily come out here and lie and get a crap load of views, but if I wanted to, then I would be doing a massive disservice to myself because I understand that the sport itself was not growing based off of that. So to me, at least, I don't want to be that guy. I'm a very honest person when I come out and talk sports in general. I try to do the best I can when it comes to boxing, and I do that for basketball, which I have to get back into it. I haven't been able to keep myself back in the loop in basketball. I've actually liked watching a lot of basketball YouTubers, like Crispy Flakes, Hoop Zone, whole bunch of people, man. Just so many people that just talk about sports every single day, and at least in basketball, football, baseball, hockey, like these sports communities are way easier to talk about any good game going on because the best are always constantly facing each other and they don't have a problem doing it. So now in the sport of boxing, this is where the bigger question lies. But where are we going to come to clarity in the sport where we need to get away from racial politics and we need to start being honest of making the best fights happen because that's really the biggest issue. Like a lot of people don't want to be honest, with themselves and the sport, and they use that as a measurement to say, oh well, this this guy can't fight this guy because of this and that. But when we look at let the picture easily shows that people don't want to fight each other. Like people are pussies and people are just beyond cowards. People may think like I'm being biased saying that because Terence Crawford, he's not putting himself in position to fight the best, but I truly believe that he is not. I think Crawford has shown with this recent move against Errol Spence to a certain level where Errol Spence, he is for who he is. He is the truth, and he is one of the most dangerous fighters in boxing. And if people don't want to be honest with me about that, I think it is true. I think Errol Spence is one of the most deadliest fighters when it comes to boxing. Does it really mean he is such a fearful fighter and he has all these, ultimate badass abilities? I'd say to a degree, yes, but he's not super duper unbeatable. But I don't think that many people can beat him anyway. The only people that I believe that could actually beat him on a fair ground level, which is not going to be easy, and the only way that you actually beat EJ is that you would have to have pressure, but you need to have good high ring IQ with that pressure. And then on top of that, you need to have amazing ability to come in with your mindset of being successful in the fight. And I think when it comes to Errol Spence is just a different type of animal when it comes to his skill set, what breed of fighting that he comes from, and on top of that, he's heavily fundamentalist. People call him the big fundamental, and like obviously I'm a southpaw myself, and I believe southpaws run boxing, and that's a historical fact. Southpaws are definitely one of the most heavily dedicated fighters in boxing. If not a good portion of them, obviously guys like Jeremy Cuevas, he got beat by Angel Fierro, but Angel Fierro, he was supposed to lose to Jeremy Cuevas, and Cuevas blew that opportunity. Does that mean Cuevas is no longer better to Angel Fierro? I wouldn't say so. I think when you look at the styles of Southpaw fighters are very dangerous matchups against Orthodox fighters that choose not to face a lot of Southpaws. And Southpaws are dangerous to other Southpaws when Southpaws understand, the Southpaw school of boxing. And when I say that with the intention to say that Southpaws have such a great mechanism of using defensive mechanism tactics if they are being educated in their ability to win the fight. But when you look at Southpaws in general, Southpaws have such a deadly style in their game. And, when you study a guy like Errol Spence, he is one of the very few people in the world that actually have a fundamentalist Southpaw ability. I should make like a video of like, the type of Southpaws there are in boxing. But when you look at like the levels of Southpaws, Errol Spence is S tier. He's basically old breed destructive southpaws. He's a bona fide boxer puncher, has a lot of great underrated defense where a lot of people don't credit him for. People think he gets hit a lot, but he really doesn't. Like most of his shots are basically pity patty punches that don't even land on the face. And even with like, the Yordenis Ugas fight, even though it's boxing, you're gonna get hit, but Ugas wasn't able to land flush on Spence. And granted, people want to say, "Oh, nah, like you're capping, blah blah blah." You're lying, but I'm not lying. Like when you look at Errol Spence, like Errol Spence is a certain type of fighter that nobody doesn't fight on a regular, and he has educated, destructive pressure, and that's what a lot of great southpaws are good at doing. But when you look at Crawford, Crawford's never been in there with a guy like EJ. He's never put himself in a position with a guy like EJ before. And that's why when Crawford looked at the style, he understood what EJ is capable of doing to him. See, now people may think I'm lying. People may think, oh, nah, Crawford's fought guys like EJ. But when you look at his resume doesn't speak for itself. His resume shows that he never decided to fight a guy of EJ's caliber, and the closest person to a Errol Spence would be a Jerron Boots Ennis. And see now, people may say, "Oh, nah, Boots ain't that good. He ain't that good, man. Jerron Ennis, he's a bum." Okay, if he's a bum, see, here's like my biggest issue. If somebody's a bum that's in your division that's rated to be a top 10 fighter, if not soon, like pound for pound skill level talent based off of skill, then why not you as a fighter like Terence Crawford go after a guy like Jerron Ennis or somebody of that level? Because if you could beat a guy like him and beat him out of the picture, then that gives you more leverage to say, you know what, I know I could beat Spence, I know I could destroy him. So therefore, let me fight more southpaws, or let me fight southpaws throughout my career. So I'm not really looking at Spence to be such a high level threat. Obviously, that's a big pill to swallow because Errol Spence is a very destructive talent. And the problem is that when you fight a guy of his caliber, you can't prepare for a style like that. That's why when people say styles make fights, like people need to understand the style before they can make before they can make like a bold prediction to say, oh well, this fighter can do this to that fighter. But at the end of the day, like the fighter needs to do it. Like the style will determine the fight, but it's all about the personified basis of looking at the archetype and skill set. So how I see it, I see Crawford being such a tailor-made matchup for Spence. I think Spence has already went through his toughest fights to understand what he's up against, and I think Errol Spence is just literally a bad style matchup for Terence Crawford. People may think I'm a little bit hyper biased, but it's really not. It's just that when I look at the picture, I think Terence Crawford has shown more deficiencies and flaws off of Errol Spence being the more dangerous fighter to defeat him because he has shown that he's been hurt and he's been dropped by lower level fighters. Versus with Errol Spence, he's never hit the deck before, and he's done what he had to do as a fighter to be successful. So, case in point, I think with this fight with him and Avanesian is a duck, because David Avanesian has not done anything in his career to be a successful fighter. And not to say he's not a bad fighter, it's just that he's never put himself in position to be successful. People may think I'm being a little bit biased, but it's just like at the end of the day, like he's not done anything in his career to be successful. So, I mean, to me at least, like I just don't see, the fight itself being competitive with him and EJ. I think EJ has primed himself enough with all the best fights in his career to be successful. But people want to act like Crawford, he doesn't need to put in this work against a guy like, you know, Boots or Virgil Ortiz and all these other killers. Like people really try to act like he doesn't need to do any of that, and I don't know. I just find that to be really stupid. Like he should very well be tested just as much as everyone else, and that's why I aggressively talk down on the matchmaking and boxing because it's really just that bad. Like I mean, people may think I'm being heavily biased, but it's like I don't really give a shit, and I been wanted Crawford to lose because I never thought of him to be that good to begin with. Like, yes, I've had like some thoughts where I thought like, oh yeah, maybe Crawford's good, and I was like a little bit tricked into like the hype train with Terence Crawford going up against Kell Brook, and I was like, oh yeah, you know what, Crawford, if he beats Brook, then this will definitely define his career. But then once I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, he's not facing a 100% Kell Brook. He's not going up against a 100% Sean Porter. He's not going up against any of those guys because why? He did the same thing what Canelo Alvarez did to his opponents. Let them be war torn, and then you go after them. Why do you think Canelo Alvarez never decided to fight Cotto or Shane Mosley in their primes? Canelo Alvarez could have done it. Not to say he couldn't have, but then on top of it, they were never in their primes. Shane Mosley and Cotto, they were past their primes. But if you think about it, when Canelo started his career at 147, why didn't Canelo stay at 147? Why did you move up to 154 to get that title shot opportunity against Matthew Hatton, in which he fought Carlos Baldomir leading up to that point? But still, like we all knew the picture. Like Canelo was already in position to get a title at 147, and I guarantee you, if you ask Errol Spence, hey, would you have fought Canelo if he stayed at 147? Errol Spence would have been like, yeah, because you want to know why? If Errol beat Canelo, he would have been quote unquote the face of boxing. You want to know why? Because Canelo Alvarez was making he was already making it big before and after the Floyd Mayweather fight. But after he fought Floyd Mayweather, that's what made Canelo this massive mega hype train that everyone just dick rided to say, oh yeah, man, Canelo, man, Canelo is he's so good, he like he's such a great influence to all the children in Mexico. Really? All those weird ass, white looking ass Mexican weirdo piece of shit people that dick ride Canelo's ball sacks, in which most of them don't even support him. But the mass majority of people really look up to a man that is heavily influenced by black American fighters that he looked up to, but yet he has to cheat and he has to be a ducking piece of shit to the best fighters that were in his division at the time, i.e., black people. So that shows the same energy with Canelo and Crawford in the same way, because Crawford is literally the same way. He's a cooning piece of shit, like Canelo. Canelo doesn't want to fight his own, and Crawford, he don't want to fight his own. He'll fight his own when the political politics of matchmaking is right for him. So, if the matchmaking is correct, then therefore Crawford will fight his own people, i.e., with Canelo. If the matchmaking is correct, Canelo will fight his own people. So, the same thing with Crawford and Spence. The reason why this fight is not happening is because Crawford is afraid of Errol Spence's skill set. If not, you would have been fought a guy like EJ a long time ago. So, here's the problem that I have. A lot of people really thought Crawford is going to just end up facing Spence after beating David Evanesian, which I don't think is going to happen. But I have a really deep feeling that Evanesian could fuck around and beat Crawford. Because what if he does beat Crawford? Does that make Undisputed a lot easier now? Because now that think about it, I'm not saying Evanesian doesn't have a chance, but if he does have a chance to beat Crawford and he defeats Crawford, what does that make Terence Crawford as a fighter, and what does that make David Evanesian as a fighter? Because that just means both of them, they weren't shit in their careers, but then again, Crawford wasted his entire career to get smoked by low level fighters, and eventually he's gonna lose. He's gonna have to lose in something, whether if that's in boxing or outside of boxing. Crawford's not gonna do good after his career is over. I'm calling it right now. But the whole issue with this problem with Crawford uh, versus Spence is that we've seen that Crawford is not the man that he calls himself to be, and with Avanesian, if he defeats, Crawford, what that will be is that Avanesian will be considered a decent level welterweight, and if he dominates Crawford in a in a fantastic uh in a fantastic fashion or fantastic fashion, basically spectacular fashion, then Crawford will be viewed as a low tier level fighter that fights to the level of his competition. So that's pretty much it, man. I think Spence is basically going to end up moving to 154. But if he wants to wait this out and see what Crawford does come December, because Spence, he'll be active too, that makes a lot of sense to say, okay, let me do this one more time. I'm going to defend my belts against a guy like Stanionis or Jaron Ennis. Well, I would leave Jaron Ennis off the table. That's not a duck, by the way, because Spence, he doesn't need to fight him unless he's mandated to, if it's coming through the IBF. But through the WBA or through the WBC, I would go after Virgil Ortiz or Amanta Stanionis. If you could beat Stanionis, defeat him, and then wait for Crawford, then that's going to make a lot better sense in the future to get Undisputed out of the picture. So I think Boots and all these other guys, they're gonna go through their process of waiting, and I don't think the wait is gonna be that long. They should stay active as much as possible, and once that's done, then everything will be straightforward. So let me know what you guys think, and what's your thoughts on Spence versus Crawford hold up, or this whole ducking situation. Do you think Crawford ducks Spence, or do you think Errol duck Crawford? Either way, I don't care about you Bud Dick Riders, so no Bud Dick Riders in the comment section, but any open thoughts available on the comment section, go right ahead. So I'll see you guys later. Big Fish and Southpaws Run Boxing. Shout out to Errol Spence and salute to the mighty LDBC and the TWT. Fuck all the haters, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.